somewhat more useful, but I'll take it. All right, guys, so we're going to be taking a look today at, obviously, the Operational Art of War 4. Many of you guys have already seen this game in action before. Now, I wanted to try the World War I scenarios for a while now, and I think the one we're going to try today is the Italian front, Caporetto. This scenario will cover all, at the strategic level, the Battle of Caporetto and the following defensive battles of Montegrappa and Piave. Within the framework of the entire Italian front from Lake Garda to the Adriatic Sea, with the breakout of Caporetto, you will be engaged in one of the few battles of movement of the First World War, and you will find many strategic options to consider and choose either as defender or as attacker. Interesting. So I'm jumping in. I am playing as the Kingdom of Italy against the Central Powers, Austria, Germany, etc. So let's see how it goes. Again, this is the first time I've tried this scenario. And the World War I scenarios in this game, as well as any other game really, obviously there's not a lot of movement because, as you can see here, I mean, just look at the massive amount of forces, and already the Germans here, are in, specifically the Austro-Hungarians actually, not the Germans, although there are probably some German units, are attacking us here. And they're pushing through our lines here. As you can see, this all resembles the World War I front line, and they are absolutely pushing through with huge groups of men. So I don't know how we're going to be able to offset this. Maybe we have to head into the mountains and fight the enemy up there. We'll have to wait and see. Good to see you guys. So you can see this, I mean, this absolutely resembles a World War I front line. The difference being the northern part of our trenches are absolutely getting hit hard by the enemy. So if they're able to break that northern trench and then ultimately roll us, that's going to be a problem. But if you guys look to the west, you can actually see that we've got a bunch of units there ready to go to the front. So I'm going to be sending them as soon as I can. Also, guys, if you want to give any suggestions in the comments, please do. This is a pretty big mission. If you guys are taking a look at the minimap in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the extent of this front line, and it is absolutely massive. So this is actually a big mission, but the funny thing is, if you're playing and if you guys enjoy the World War I missions in the Operational Art of War 4, this is actually one of the smaller ones. Obviously, if you're playing like the entire campaign of World War I, it is huge. You know, this is a great example of a big one, and also, this is a much more, how can I put this? It's not really so much a static front. It does move quite a bit, so you're going to see a lot of movement, as opposed to a lot of other World War I battles where you'll see, you know, moments of breakthroughs where there'll be a lot of movement, but here, there's movement all the time, because we don't only have the trench lines, but we're also fighting the Austro-Hungarians in the mountains, so this is going to be a tough fight. Definitely bolstering that southern line. Man, that's looking, yeah, it's looking tough. And up here, you can see our forces are just not really ready for a massive invasion. So we are ready over here, but otherwise, most of our forces are just starting to get into their positions to deal damage to the enemy. Just look at all the support they're getting. And it's all coming on the rail line. Now, obviously, we could shut down that rail line. That would be great. But I don't see that we have any units even close to that thing. Alright, that's one of our forts. I don't want them taking our forts out, and it looks like the fort held. That's good news. I mean, obviously, taking a fort in World War I is a bit of a challenge. For those who don't believe me, watch Paths of Glory. It's not easy in the slightest. I'm also starting to notice If you look at the upper right-hand corner of our units, almost all of them are red. They're not really prepared for battle. And even the ones near the cities are orange or yellow. And they're just barely green on some areas. So a lot of our units just unsupplied, undermanned, understaffed, etc. And we're facing the entire force of the Austro-Hungarian army with, I'm sure, some German support. Although the majority are going to be Austro-Hungarian fighters. Yeah, they completely cut off that one unit. And now I believe it's Piazzo. I can't see the second two letters there. I believe it's Piazzo that's now taken over. So they have taken a city. Look at this. Even on the southern front, they're pushing through. What will we do, guys? We definitely need some thoughts here for how to approach such a massive German force. Now our AS, which represents basically our ability to fire artillery as the unit is moving, things like that, seems to be better than the enemies. I'm not sure if that's because it's our turn or because we maybe have some superior artillery pieces, but that's the only thing really working for us, and that's not going to be enough to stop a huge army. It's just not. Maybe a few units. Look at this front. Ooh, this is an interesting one. So that one is not, they're not as well, how can I put this? They're not as well, like, set up on that front, so I'm thinking that's where I might go to gain some serious victories. We'll have to see. I will take a look at the chat here in a second, guys, but as you can see, with this particular scenario, the enemy turn is quite long. They have to go through every single thing the enemy has to do. I do believe there are options in the game to skip turns, to basically not have to see all the enemy moves. Typically, I like to see them. I like to see exactly what's going on, especially on a battlefield this big. If you just go ahead and skip what the enemy's doing, you're likely to miss a lot of important stuff. One thing we know for sure is this front line, this trench line, has been completely taken over. We still have remnants, but I'm not sure if we want to reform the trench line and go for another defense. It's going to be a tough choice to make. There's going to be a lot of entrenchment for sure. Might actually be the enemy's artillery fire. So yeah, I think that's the enemy's artillery fire. That's no longer his units moving. And a lot of the enemy units seem to be pretty tired too. I would imagine being right there in the trenches, it's pretty hard to get full ammo, full, medical support, etc. The units farther back over here are all green, more or less. All right, next part of their turn. So remember, there are 3 or 4 phases of a turn. It really depends on the scenario. Each one is different. In this one, they get another phase, and that makes me really sad because that means they're going to attack again in the north here, possibly. Or at the very least, they're going to set up in such a way that it's going to be very hard for us to regain our position there on the line. Bechergruppen. So the Bechergruppen is a mortar group. I'm not sure if this is referring to the name of the actual commanding unit or if it's referring to the name of the weapon. You can see a few of them have broken into the south, but I feel confident we can finish off those units that have broken behind our lines. That being said, these aren't small squads that we deal with when we play modern campaigns. These are thousands of men, sometimes tens of thousands of men in one group. Look at that. Look at that. They're rolling behind us. Oh, man. This is going to be a rough one, my friends. Look at that. Now they're attacking the southern trenches. Oh boy, it's going to be interesting to see how we deal with this. And this is certainly a campaign where you can kind of turn World War I tactics around, essentially, because here we're clearly being beaten on the trench line. But maybe we can beat them by cutting them off, by getting behind their lines, using some sort of guerrilla tactics if we can. Again, it's not going to be easy, though. Even getting past these lines seems almost impossible. I'm sure there'd be a few Austro-Hungarian guards waiting for you on the other side. All right, they just attacked some of our units over there. It was a 511 unit, so they managed to hold. It's not like all of our units are breaking, so possibly the units they broke were already very weak to begin with, 1-2s or 2-1s, basically just, you know, cannon fodder, for lack of a better term. And these other 4-11s, 5-11s, etc., they might be able to hold out for at least another turn, and that's a good sign. Alright, seems like the sounds of battle are dying down a bit. Just imagine the amount of manpower lost there in just that tiny attack. So yeah, we can see over here in the north, absolutely, the enemy is turning our flank. They're going to be pushing those units back. They could easily encircle the rest of this army. I think we have no choice but to bring those units south of Monte Maggiore up to the front lines. We just have no choice. Otherwise, they're going to encircle the entire part of our army. And whether or not we have extra units, things like that, it's not going to make much of a difference. I think victory point-wise, if they wipe us out here, they win, pretty much. You get victory points for destroying units, as well as taking, of course, important locations. Mount Maggiore, of course, is under our control, but there's a lot of units here, or a lot of areas that are under enemy control. They are totally in control of Gran Cucco, Rudiza, all these areas. So we've got to try and take them back, and if not, do the next best thing. Look at that. They're attacking that 1014 again. Come on, you can hold, man. I'm not sure what the Italian equivalent would be to the Iron Cross. Remember, this is World War I, so I'm sure that some units in that, or some men in that unit would be gaining that particular medal. Siri, how can we win this battle? No answer. Okay, that's not good. Siri always has an answer. Okay, so you can see they're in the south. We're holding. That's a good sign. Again, I know you guys have seen a lot of our units running during this battle, but listen, if we can hold that southern line, there is absolutely a chance. I'm not so sure about going on the offensive. When we were looking at the scenario description beforehand, it said that you can play this scenario either offensively or defensively, and that might be true later on in this scenario, but right now I'm seeing just pure defense. I'm immediately going to order our men to entrench. I think they're probably already entrenched, but we'll make absolutely sure, and we're just going to withstand some more German attacks. There you go. That's the fourth part of their turn. So far, they've gotten 4 parts to the turn. And like I said, it really depends on the scenario you're playing. So like a smaller scenario, you might get like 2 or 3 moves during a turn. This one, it could be 5 or 6. We're not sure. There's just so many units to deal with here that they have to allow that many turns or that many moves within a turn. And again, for those of you not understanding the operational art of war system, it's not as simple as my turn, your turn. It's sort of like my turn, I do 3 or 4 different groups of moves. So I would call them like mini turns, basically. And then it turns over to you. So right now the Germans have taken their 4th, or the Austro-Hungarians have taken their 4th, and they are going to keep on attacking. So this is tough. Not breaking through that line. 3 deep lines of entrenchments there. That they're not going to break through. There's no way. Watch, a second later, they actually break through. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Okay, guys, finally it's our turn. I'm going to jump into the chat now. Once again, this is a major campaign, so we can now understand the length of turns here is incredible. Let me get rid of these particular lines. This is essentially showing where our supply is going. This can be pretty useful stuff. We're just not going to use it for this campaign. So here we go. Right now, it's an overwhelming victory, and the only reason it's an overwhelming victory right now is because we control more territory. That's it. Let's take a look here at the chat. Sorry about that, guys. I wasn't able to look at the chat for a while. How's it going? Krupdrug, Dogs of War, Artrop. Artrop is saying, I've been playing When the Leaves Fall, which is initial German invasion through Belgium. It is massive. Also, realistically, limits reinforcements is in the start of World War I. See, there you go. That's one of the beautiful things about the operational art of war. You can get some really huge campaigns, and if you're just looking for something quick, you can do that too. In this one, I wanted to bring, you know, every other operational art of war 4 stream we've done, we've gotten a lot of viewers, but I wanted to bring you guys one of the major battles. We always do like smaller battles or smaller wars. No one understands the time management and the operational art of war except the designer. That's a great way of putting it. And even when I was doing the tutorial for the game, which, by the way, guys, yeah, if you want to just type in Agrippa Maxenius, the Operational Art of War tutorial, you can see even I had some difficulty understanding. Okay, look at this. Italian HQs without reports from the trenches. All Italian trains have been retired. Too bad it's not World War II. Mussolini would have dealt with that. Italian HQs, strategic surprise achieved by Imperial armies. Alien trenches attacked by gas. And of course, a bunch of different cities are in ruins, including Luiso. Over here, we can basically see the attacks, and man, it ain't good. It ain't pretty. The friendly loss refers to us. The enemy loss refers... the friendly loss refers to them. The enemy loss refers to us in this battle. And you can just see here, in some of these attacks, first of all, you can see the amount of men involved. And look at our losses. Look at our losses. This is annihilation level losses right here. This is end of the world level losses. Entire armies wiped out. You know, I'm playing just for fun the French Indochina campaign on my channel. And losses like that in the French Indochina campaign, that would be a GG. That would be game over right there. There's no way you could recuperate. And that's just one of the battles we've had. So let's get rid of these first of all. And now we have to decide what to do. Okay, so they're all coming from Ljubljana. There's no way we're going to get all the way there this turn. But I do feel that here in the south, we do have some opportunities to possibly lead an attack. I know it sounds insane. I'm just going to single unit move. I don't want to send everybody in for this attack. But I want to try and, you know, do what the enemy's doing to us. And you can see here, no way. We don't get any of that artillery support, by the way, because they're unprepared. So usually you would have that artillery support, but if you guys saw there, when we tried to select it, it's completely crossed out. Now, a lot of the times, if there's artillery like this, you could still get 50%. So we're going to go ahead and select. You can actually see that little red dot appear in the lower right-hand corner. We're just not getting the full use of this artillery. We're getting a very limited use. And bring in these troops. 2, 3 Italiani. Okay, we want to bring in some more. That's not going to be enough. So I'll bring in this unit as well. We might even need to bring in some more. Again, this is World War I. Numbers do matter here, big time. We've also got the 3rd Army here. Unfortunately, I don't think he can move this turn. What about the 23rd Corps HQ? Now, this is an HQ unit. It's not exactly going to be useful here, but perhaps it can give our men another reason to fight. Interesting. So this is really cool, guys. So as soon as we brought the HQ in, now the artillery is giving us 100% of the support. That's awesome. So that's something we just learned. Essentially, the HQ unit had to be here to call in the arty more effectively. And now, look at all that artillery support. We're down to success level of poor, but we're getting better, guys. We're getting there. I'm going to send in more infantry. In fact, I'm going to group move these guys. There are a lot of engineers here. But believe it or not, engineers can be pretty nasty in battle, too. Okay, I think everybody's like 1, 2, 3. So, guys, we're trying to make a breakout in the southern side here. In the same way they broke through our northern lines, we're going to break through their southern lines, or try to. And over here, Infantry Corps, Honved Armored Division. Now, unfortunately, this guy will not be able to get any artillery support because we're using that for the south. But I'm still making some attacks. I know some of you are like, don't do it, Agrippa, it's madness! But we've got to try it, guys. We've got to. And then, of course, I'll take a look at other parts of the map and see what else we can do. I don't think we're going to win that one. But I'm definitely going to plan for it. You can also see the time expanded here. This also has a lot to do with the turns, things like that. So for instance, if you make a lot of moves with one unit in one of the, I'm trying to word this properly, in one of the phases of your turn, then you might not be able to use them later. It really depends on how much time it's gonna take to resolve the combat. And I must say, the enemy has pretty good defenses here, so this is gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna move north a bit. So yeah, like I said, I think the only thing we can do here is try and reinforce the line. We'll reinforce the line over here in this mountain area. You can see this area is very mountainous. So I'll try and send as many units as I can just to hang out here in the mountains and wait. Let's see. That's fine. Limit losses. I think they're already in an entrenched position. So we just have to basically make a second front line. That's what I'm seeing here. And I think we'll keep it on this side of the river. So force the enemy to attack us by crossing the river. That seems like a good bet. May or may not work. And unfortunately, the movement of these guys is limited. Again, World War I. Otherwise, I would move them even over here to maybe assist our guys in this area. If you guys are looking right here, you see all these units right here that have the little red check. This basically is showing that these units, they don't have the best supplies. Interestingly, as they get closer to the front line, that turns to orange, which probably means that the HQ commander is over here in the front. So we definitely want to get all these guys up. In fact, if we can get this guy to join our attack, look at that. A second army joining the attack. Unfortunately, I don't think he can. Now, there's also this army. There's this army that's trapped. Not really trapped, but surrounded by a lot of our units. Let's plan an attack here and see what we can do. We're even going to bring in some artillery support. Well, 50% of it anyway. And now the success is poor. Poor is better than overwhelmingly poor. If we could get one more unit in, man, we're definitely catching a break. Oh yeah, now the HQ comes in. Of course, no, we can't do it because most of this artillery is already going to the other theater. This one isn't, though, so we'll take that. Let's take a look here at the chat. Ah, Gold Medal of Military Valor. He was referring to the Italian equivalent of the Medal of Honor, or the Iron Cross. I like it. Yeah, standard Dan World War I Iceni Raider, exactly. 29 viewers, awesome. I love how so many people show up to basically watch the Operational Art of War 4. Yeah, I think rounds would be a great way of putting it. In fact, I think you got it there, Trop. Yeah, rounds, definitely. Rounds, phases, but essentially it's the turns within a turn is the best way I can explain it. But it makes sense, especially, you know, the Operational Art of War 4, as many of you know, it's an extremely in-depth game. This is the 4th iteration of the game, so they've had a lot of time to work on it, and that whole phase thing is really fascinating because depending on the conflict that you're facing, that's going to change. So if you're facing like a modern conflict, your phases are going to be a lot faster because your vehicles move faster, your men, you know, have better equipment, etc. But when you get into World War I scenarios, or even pre-World War I scenarios, which, yes, this game has that as well, then you start to realize that, you know, it's going to take a lot longer to position your troops. It's going to take a lot longer to see any changes on the map. I mean, just keep in mind, like, look at the amount of Austro-Hungarians there are. Even if we manage to get a few breakthroughs over here, it's not going to really do much. So we really need all of the time we can get. Now let's peer around the line. We know that there are enemies coming from the mountains up here to the north. And I do want to engage them. If there's one thing I know, it's that the Italians have the advantage in the mountains. They know how to use them. A lot of them are from these mountain regions. So I'm going to hit these massive armies. Look at that, 18th Mountain Division, 1021, man. Absolutely insane. That's a huge group of men. Huge. I would guess thousands. Tens of thousands, maybe. Move some more. Let's see how we do just like this. And again, I think our divisions are smaller than the enemies. I think they have larger army groups. Could bring in some support, but it's only going to be 50%. We need to bring in some more men. We're even bringing in our artillerymen to attack here. But yeah, the chances are poor here in the mountains. It's going to be a rough one. And I'm probably, given the time we have in the stream, guys, I probably won't move every Italian unit here, because I think that would actually probably take the rest of the stream. What I will do is I'll get a few attacks going, and we'll see how they perform in battle. If we turn it back over to the Austro-Hungarians, I fear we'll be here another half hour. The actual Austro-Hungarian turn there took 10 minutes, which is epic. You can see here on the zoomed out view just how massive this battle is. So I'm just kind of giving you guys a look. This is our line in the mountains, of course, extending all the way up. And we also have to deal, when we come down here to the south a bit, an entirely new line of enemy troops that we have to deal with over here. So just incredible, man, the scope and scale of this particular conflict. I'm going to play like this. I think this is better. To see the amount of troops, you just have to click on the unit so we can actually see how many are there. All right, we've got that attack going. We've got that attack going. What about these fellows? I'm going to start moving them to the front. Group move. That guy's out of moves. Get this guy up to the front. This is a divisional commander, so again, we want to be careful with our divisional commanders. Don't exactly want to be losing them. I'm just basically setting up enough guys on the line, hopefully to make a difference. What about over here in the mountains? All right, we're going to move this guy. This is an enemy Jaeger regiment, so that's definitely a German regiment. Now, again, it's mostly the Austro-Hungarians in this fight, but there are some Germans available for support. All right, let's see how this works. Man, that's a huge German force. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Give us some luck here. And yeah, this is typical World War I in the sense that it seems like no matter how many men we're sending over those trench lines, the chances of a victory are pretty small. Let's take a look here. This is a game I should be able to play when my arm is in a sling post-surgery on my shoulder. Ooh, what happened to your arm, man? Ouch. Yeah, this is absolutely a game you can play with just one arm, you know, mouse and keyboard. You have to use the keys, like right now I'm using the keyboard to move around like this. In terms of selecting units, you just use your mouse, and of course I'm using the same hand here, so yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. You can also get really close like this. I like the really close view personally, but it might not be for everybody. All right, let's see. Units are lazy. Why can you not move a little farther? Right there, we have a possibility of an attack too. So there is going to be a lot of attacks, counterattacks sort of deal going on here. It wasn't at all unlikely during the First World War, as I'm sure many of you know, to be in one trench one morning, have to retreat from that trench, and then be back in that trench at night. So that's being shown here pretty well. Huh, weird. We can't select these guys, the artillery group. It is strange. I wonder why. All right, so we'll select this guy as well. Still, the chances of success were very poor. That's why I'm looking around everywhere to see if we have any reinforcing units that can make it. But I don't think anyone can make it here. The military police aren't going to be of much help. Oh, this unit right here is a problem. And it's actually taken over this town. So I'm going to start getting as many guys up. I think here we could actually get a victory, because we've got some pretty chunky units in the area. So we're attacking the mountain division. Look at that. Come on, man. Give me a win. 2, 3. Give us something better than very poor, at least. Success is poor. Success is fair. Hey, look at this. And we're also hitting this area that we were attacking before. So that's looking great. If I can bring in even more units, I will. See if we can throw in some artillery here. And even the engineers are going to join in on this attack. Fair enough. All right, we're selecting these guys, but as you can see, that increased the time expanded. And that's because these artillery pieces are already firing at a certain location, and we've just changed that. We've completely changed their location of fire. I think that's all we can do on this front. We could probably do other things over on the other fronts, but I'm pretty much ready to, yeah. See, these mountain units aren't moving right now. So it could be that they're positioned to remain in this area. I don't think the enemy will get through us on the mountains, but again, anything can happen. Alright, what about here? Now this is another area. I'd like to completely cut off the enemy here. Alright, here we go, guys. We're going for the 56th Schutzen Division, the 565th Infantry Regiment. They do have some support over here. Likelihood of success is still very poor, so I'm going to try to bring up some more support. Send him in as well. Still very poor. That's got to make a difference. 613, come on, man. No, it's not. Wow. I am leaving the line open just to make this attack, but we should have enough time throughout the turn to return. We're going to go ahead and see how these attacks go very soon, guys. I just want to get, excuse me, I just want to get a few more set up. So get right on the enemy here if we can. Okay, look at that. We just got engaged there by artillery. That has to do with the AS. And, you know, obviously if we're playing a more modern battle, the AS is going to be a lot higher because you've got, you know, planes, etc. Sure, you've got some biplanes in World War I, but it's unlikely they're going to make much of a difference on the infantry front. Let's put it that way. I'm also going to hit this Army Logistics Division. It's an HQ division, and I just, like, when I see a prize this good, I have to go for it. And there, the chance of success is actually good. So that's a very good sign. Send these guys forward, and maybe it's time for us to show the Austro-Hungarians a few lessons. We are going to take on that huge infantry unit, the 3rd Infantry Corps, you bet. I'm just bringing up enough men to crack that nut. Come on. So we're sending everybody, or a lot of people, over the trench line. I'm even going to bring in my artillery division for this one. So obviously, if I was playing an entire campaign here, guys, which this is the entire Italian campaign, it's actually just a part of the entire Italian campaign. But if I were to play this in its entirety, it would take a very long time, as you can imagine. And that's one cool thing about the Operational Art of War 4, if you've got a job or something like this, where you don't have the time, you know, to spend playing games all day, you can always come back. You just play a few turns, come back later. All right, let's see how this first phase of the turn goes. I want to see how these attacks went. Boom! Into the trenches, boys! And if somebody could get the average number of men in a division, or even a unit in World War I, if you guys just jump on Wikipedia, we will know exactly how many men are being lost here. Now, we have taken back a town. That looks like a town, an Italian town we can take back. Or at least the enemy's retreated. And look at that. We got the enemy to retreat here, too. All is not lost. So 3 massive charges across the trenches, guys. This guy's surrounded. I want to completely destroy him. Take a few Austro-Hungarian prisoners for once. Come on, boys. You're our only hope here. We've got faith in you. Kinda, sorta. Okay, let's take a look at these casualties. Man! So even in the battles we actually managed to win, where we gained control of the area, you could see that our casualties quite often were superior to the enemy casualties. So this was our attempt at assaulting the southern line right there bordering that sea. If we take a look at the enemy, we did pretty well, as you can see, destroying a bunch of rifle squads, irregular squads, a bunch of artillery guns as well, which, as you can imagine, in World War I are very valuable. So being able to destroy those, that's good. Now let's take a look at our casualties. Oh, In the hundreds. I mean, wow, just wow. So, big bit of advice here from Agrippa Maxenius. If you're playing the World War I scenarios, be careful with those attacks, because this might occur. So the hilarious thing here is, and very similar to a World War I battle, we won this battle. We won. Now, the losses, if we're just looking at them, between us and the enemy are dramatic. But since we took the land, the battle is ours. The idea of body count really only started coming in the Vietnam War, where, okay, if we kill more of the enemy than they do of us, then we win, basically. In this case, that's not what happened. Over here, we did a little bit better. We still lost a lot of men, obviously, but we did manage to break down that unit pretty much, and I think he's going to be moving back. But this gives you an idea of how tough these fights can be. Interesting. So this jumps, now this is weird, this jumps right over to the Central Empires at the end. We get one phase. That's amazing. So I think the Germans get 3 phases or 4 phases. We get 1. Or the Austro-Hungarians get 3 or 4 phases. We get 1. So there's no way we want to watch the Germans crush us. I'm sure some of you do. Thank you, Iceni Raider. So Iceni Raider is saying the number of men in the infantry divisions deployed by the Great Powers in 1914 ranged from about 16,000 in the Russian army to about 18,000 in the British. Unbelievable. Yeah, we're talking about, just in this one turn we played, I'm sure we have losses, you know, casualties at least in the hundreds of thousands. Ooh, torn rotator cuff. Fell on a couple times, ice on my driveway. Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch. You always got to be careful with that. My dad, he's an older gentleman, and luckily he kind of learned how to fall because he used to play basketball when he was younger. And a few months ago, he actually slipped. He's in New York. He slipped on some ice, and he was able to turn his body in such a way that he kind of fell on his side. But I think he told me, like, had he fallen on his back, that would have been pretty serious. Yeah, ice is awful. So what I am going to do here, guys, with the remaining time we have in the stream, I'm going to go ahead and begin a new game. So those of you that are not aware of all the missions in the Operational Art of War 4 can take a look. Or maybe those of you that have seen all the operations and just want to see what else there is. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close this quickly, guys. Sorry about that. You're going to have to see my awful desktop for a second. And yes, my desktop is cluttered. We've actually had people mention, like, hey, Agrippa, you know there's something called the recycle bin, right? I never heard of it before. All right, here we go. There you are. I just saw you. Just there you are. Okay, so I want to show you guys, and let me know, guys, specifically what you want to see here in the chat, because there's all sorts of different conflicts in the game. So let me just give you an idea. We've got pre-World War I, we've got World War I, we've got World War II, we've got modern Middle East, we've got modern Asia, and I believe modern Europe as well. So if any of those appeal to you, just let me know in the chat box. I'm actually going to go ahead and keep this up. Let me go to the main screen. So this is the theater screen where you get to select from a number of different theaters. I think if we get 1 or 2 answers referring to any of these, I will jump in and just allow you guys to take a look. There's also the modern miscellaneous. I didn't mention that. And the modern Europe is modern NATO versus Warsaw Pact. Of course, NATO against the Soviet Union. Interesting. Okay, so Nikiforos Vokas is talking about Syria-Lebanon conflicts. That's a good one. Let's jump into the modern Middle East. There could be. Now, in the modern Middle East, there's a lot of fascinating missions. This might actually be my favorite of any of the theaters, and that's just because I really like these sort of more recent wars. Now, you can do all sorts of battles here. We've got the West Bank. Of course, this is Israel. And against the Jordanians, the Egyptians, and the Iraqis. And definitely a tough one. We've got, of course, the Yom Kippur War in 1973, and we've even got Kuwait in 91. So this is essentially kind of Desert Storm type thing. And if you do Saddam's Final Gamble 2003, this is another one that's available in the Middle East one. This is a great one. Now, I'm going to warn you guys, if you're not crazy about too much air support, I wouldn't touch this one, because the hilarious thing about this mission, without giving away too much information, is you start on a front line, you know, right there on the border with Iraq. and you're looking at Saddam's army. And believe it or not, Saddam's army, Iraq's army at the time was pretty formidable. I mean, a lot of tanks, a lot of infantry. But after you end your turn, a group of American bombers comes and just decimates it. So you've got like this massive group of tanks in front of you, and then all of a sudden, seconds later, they are just flaming heaps. And I believe if you type into Google Images Saddam's Highway, I believe it's called Saddam's Highway Gulf War, you'll see that this actually took place during the Gulf War, that Saddam had set up armies and they just were annihilated. And there were highways of just miles and miles and miles of burned out vehicles. And that certainly happens in the campaign. So as for Syria-Lebanon conflict specifically, I don't see any here, but there's a lot of different Middle East conflicts that involve Syria or Lebanon. And I wouldn't be surprised if there will be more added in time. We've also got Standard Desert Storm, and this is the one where you get to really see Saddam's forces get wiped out. Another one that I think is extremely fun, extremely challenging, and possibly one of the bloodiest wars that we've had in the last 30 or 40 years is the Iran-Iraq War. This is a war that's like rarely discussed, or I should say not necessarily rarely discussed, it's just really brought up really. And this is basically a modern war fought with World War I tactics. I would highly recommend picking this one up. Play as Iran or Iraq, they're both very challenging. And the length of this war, the cool thing about this one, it's only 9 turns. Despite the war being actually several years, this particular mission is only 9 turns, so it's definitely doable for either side. Of course, as many of you know, this game does have multiplayer, so if you want to bring a buddy in, you can do that. It's also got hot seat, which I don't know if I'm the only one that still does this, but I love having a friend over, and you know, like I'll be playing a game or something, and I'll say, hey man, you want to do a hot seat game? I'll do my turn, he'll do his turn. I have a lot of fun with that, but I guess I'm a bit old-fashioned. Let's take a look here at the chat. Oh, congratulations, Swivel. And Beryl was mentioning, yes, absolutely. Field of Glory 2 would be another one you'll manage quite well. Even Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, you should do fine at. I think there's very few Slytherin or Matrix games where you require, like, everything hands-on. I would say maybe with Sanctus Reach, just because, I mean, even that you could play with one hand, but you do want to be able to look around and see the enemies near you. To sort of determine where to fire. But overall, I think you're going to be good, man. I think Slytherin Matrix is going to be the perfect game company for a torn rotator cuff. I'll take a look at one more, guys. If anybody wants to jump into another one, let me know in the comments. So we just looked at the Middle East, and yeah, I would highly recommend the Middle East. I'm probably going to be doing an Iran-Iraq War Let's Play on my channel very, very soon, because it's a fun one, man. It's a really tough one, and it's honestly difficult for both sides. It's not really easy for anybody. Let's do this. And while I'm at it, guys, I'm going to drop my Twitch channel here. I often stream a lot of the same games on my Twitch channel that we stream here on the Agrippa Maxenius channel, so in case we don't have something set up, hey, maybe you can head over there. Byron, I would refresh the stream. And another reason you might have a black screen now, I'm looking at the chat. Let's see if you still see the black screen. We've tried to set it up in such a way that we don't get the dashboard behind. Huh, that is weird. Did you guys just start seeing it now? Yeah, it could be because we are away from the actual page. So now I've jumped back to the game page. Let's see if this is better. I think it's when we shut off that the game earlier. Let's see if we're getting a black screen now. Yeah, it could be. I think I've been looking at the chat here for the last couple of minutes, so possibly that's what happened here. And we'll just have to just get rid of some of the display capture. That being said, guys, we are coming to the end of the stream. I want to remove all of this. Let's see if we can fix it like this, or else I might need to reopen OBS. It might be an OBS-only issue. Okay. All right, guys. Taking a look here at the chat, see if there are any other questions. It's rather poetic. Night scenario, they said. I think so. I think there at the end when we jumped into the new scenarios, we lost the view. Thanks so much for stopping by, guys. We really appreciate it. And let us know in the comments here or also on the forums. I'm sure many of you guys know about the Slither and Matrix forums. What kind of conflict you'd like to see in our next The Operational Art of War 4 stream. I'm really tempted to do the Iran-Iraq War next. It's a much more modern battle, but it's also, like I said, very World War I-ish. I mean, the Iraqis and the Iranians were really just on a front line against each other. Of course, there are chemical weapons in the scenario, and each scenario actually has an explanation of whether there will be nuclear weapons or chemical weapons affecting the game, that sort of thing. I think that warning is there. Maybe some people get concerned